This is Newsroom. Hello and welcome from Johannesburg in South Africa. I'm Katrien Malan in for Eben Janssen today. The show is live and broadcast from our studios in Auckland Park. We are also streaming live on YouTube with the entire show available on our YouTube channel. Today, the saga over the so-called spy tapes will continue in the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein. We remember the victims of the Marikana shooting as their tragic deaths will be remembered this weekend at a 2-year commemoration rally in the northwest. The Cape Town Central City Improvement District has launched another residential survey online, and we check in with our Nedbank Kiona team stars. But first, the headlines with Anine Dormel.
Good morning, I'm Anine Dormel. Let's have a look at the stories making headlines today. The saga over the so-called spy tapes will continue in the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein today. The court will hear an appeal by President Jacob Zuma against a High Court decision ordering the NPA to hand over a copy of the tapes to the Democratic Alliance. Meanwhile, the Democratic Alliance has accused President Jacob Zuma of attempting to avoid accountability in his response to the 246 million rand security upgrades at his private home in Nkandla. Yesterday, Zuma formally responded to Parliament on the security upgrades and requested ministers in the security cluster and the Department of Public Works to report to Parliament on their clearly defined roles and responsibilities regarding the upgrades. Honeymoon murder accused Shreen Devani is back in court this morning, where a final decision is expected on his mental health. The British businessman is accused of hiring 3 men to kill his wife Annie during their honeymoon in Cape Town in 2010. Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi has confirmed that a pregnant woman who arrived in the country from Guinea last month does not have Ebola. He was speaking after the DA's Jack Bloom had told the media of a suspected Ebola case at the Rahima Musa Mother and Child Hospital in Gauteng. Remember, these stories are available on our Facebook page. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Katrien, back to you.
Well, yes, thank you, Anine. Top story this morning. The saga over the so-called spy tapes will continue in the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein today. The court will hear an appeal by President Jacob Zuma against a High Court decision ordering the NPA to hand over a copy of the spy tapes to the Democratic Alliance.
President Jacob Zuma's legal team is arguing that the communication he had with the NPA should be kept confidential. The tapes in question form part of the NPA's 2009 decision to drop charges of corruption against President Zuma.
It would be unfair as well as unjust to continue with the prosecution. What Mr. McCarthy did was not simply being over-diligent in his pursuit of a case, it was pure abuse of process. If Mr. McCarthy's conduct offends one's sense of justice, it would be unfair as well as unjust to continue with the prosecution.
The DA believes that holding back the tapes violates the Constitution.
To the unconstitutional decision by the NPA not to hand over the spy tapes as mandated by an order of the Supreme Court of Appeal, the respect for our Constitution has been eroded.
In 2012, the SCA ruled that the DA has a standing in the review application and that the acting NPA head's decision to discontinue the prosecution of President Zuma was subject to review. Janji Chauke, SABC News.
Well, on that note, we now cross to our SABC's contributing editor, Vuyo Mvoku, who is at the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein. Good morning, Vuyo.
Well, good morning and thanks very much and welcome to Bloemfontein. Well, we are expecting the legal representatives from of the president, but also the legal representatives of the Democratic Alliance to slug it out in court today, explaining, of course, or getting into the detail of their respective submissions. On the one hand, the lawyers for the president are arguing that these tapes should not be made public, whereas the Democratic Alliance is insisting that they should, because they form the basis on which former National Director of Public Prosecutions, Mokotedi Mje, decided to drop the fraud and corruption charges against President Jacob Zuma back in 2009, and thereby paving the way for him to become the president of the republic. Well, a lot has happened since then, with the former head of crime intelligence insisting that if Mr. Mokotedi Mje listened to the same tapes that he had listened to, then he doubts if he would have reached that conclusion. But also, perhaps more importantly, it's important to note that when Mr. Mokotedi Mje reached that decision, he did so against the advice of the NPA top brass, who believed that even though there was a degree of impropriety on the part of people like Leonard McCarthy, who was at the NPA, a top member of the NPA, a deputy director of public prosecutions at the time, even though there may be reasons to actually say there was indeed a conspiracy to actually prevent Jacob Zuma from becoming president, but they urged Mokotedi Mje at the time to actually look at the merits of whether or not with what they have in front of them, there isn't a case for Mr. Mokotedi Mje at the time to actually go ahead and prosecute Jacob Zuma. But of course, as we all know, Mokotedi Mje decided at the time that he wouldn't charge Jacob Zuma, and Jacob Zuma then eventually became the president of the republic.
Why are we seeing so much interest from the DA side in this case?
Well, what else? Remember, the Democratic Alliance is a political party. It is the official opposition, the largest party after the African National Congress. So anything that they can use to actually embarrass, humiliate, and will go in some way, they believe, in defeating or in bringing down the big Goliath that is the ANC. And that is, in fact, one of the reasons that Jacob Zuma is in fact opposing this move, because he believes that the Democratic Alliance is targeting him and it's targeting the ANC because it wants power by any means necessary. So it will bolster the DA's chances if they were to win. In other words, if they were to get the tapes, and it turns out that the NPA erred, in other words, Mokotedi Mje erred in arriving at the conclusion not to charge Jacob Zuma for corruption back in 2009.
If you can just clarify to us again, what is at stake for the parties involved in this dispute, particularly the president and the NPA?
Well, as I've said, for the president, obviously, I mean, with this thing has been going on for a while, and he's of the view that the DA wants to use it to defeat him and to defeat his party, and they shouldn't be allowed. But he believes that the law is on his side because this was, in other words, he's not doing anything illegal, because when the court decided that when they decided with the NPA that whatever submission he was going to make, it was going to be confidential, it should remain so. In other words, he's not forcing anyone to actually keep this confidential. This was the decision that was reached between the parties when this matter was concluded. But of course, I mean, for the Democratic Alliance, it's a political move that they believe will, with each move that they make towards discrediting the ANC, discrediting its president, they move a step closer towards realizing their ultimate goal, and that is to defeat the ANC.
Well, Vuyo, thank you so much for joining us this morning. That's our SABC contributing editor, Vuyo Mvoko, who's in front of the Supreme Court in Bloemfontein, to give us the latest on the so-called spy tape saga. Now, today, it's a day before the tragic killing of longmen striking Marikana miners involved in an unprotected strike. On August the 16th, 2012, 34 people, mostly employed by longmen platinum mines, were killed after police opened fire on striking miners. The strike, which had begun on the 9th of August over a wage dispute, was marred by intimidation and violence. Our SABC reporter Lizette Labuskaghni witnessed the actual shooting and joins us via telephone this morning. Morning, Lizette. Well, we seem to be having problems there with Lizette in that crossing. We'll try to get her on the line again. And then moving on, the events of the 16th of August 2012 have been captured in a documentary called Miners Shot Down, directed by Rehat Desai, as a tribute to all the people who lost their lives on that tragic day. The events of the day has without a doubt changed the political landscape, labour relations and material social condition in South Africa. Marikana will remain in the history books of our country for many years to come. Now, Film SA spoke to Desai in an interview that will be aired tonight on this channel 404 at 5:30. Let's just have a sneak peek.
I see this as something that's been earth-shattering for the political landscape in South Africa. It's changed everything. We've now got a very aggressive militant youth movement which has decent representation in Parliament. You've got the largest, biggest trade union in the country. They're broken away from the African National Congress, talking about a new workers' party. You've, for the first time in our history, got serious left-wing opposition to the African National Congress. I'm surprised and overwhelmed and tremendously excited that so many hundreds of people have, if not thousands, taken this film, bought DVDs, organising screenings around the country, in the region and the wider world. I was surprised by the fact that people found it very empowering, all the knowledge and the facts, and that we were able to make an argument with the facts that showed that the mine workers were not attacking the police, that the police were not acting in self-defence, and that there was a very clear plan and conclusive evidence to show that there was an attempt to break this strike. And that attempt to break that strike led to this huge loss of lives. Furthermore, something that should never happen in a democracy, that the corporations are able to influence government to do this on their behalf.
What are you hoping to achieve with this film?
I think we've achieved many things we set out and much more. We're hoping that the first thing is, as a nation, we never forget what happens, to make sure that it never happens again, that these lives are not lost in vain, that we learn the lessons from this, that justice is done, that the police are prosecuted, that the government are held accountable, that the charges are dropped against the 270 miners that still face murder charges under this twisted English legal doctrine of common purpose, which was used time and time again in the dark years, in the apartheid years, against our people and against our movement.
Now, I'm told that we have our SABC reporter Lizette Labuskaghni back on the line, who was actually there on that day of the shooting. Morning, Lizette.
Good morning.
Well, Lizzie, thank you for joining us this morning. I would just like to know, you were present when this actual shooting took place. Please just take us through the events leading to that scene.
Well, the 16th was the culmination of a whole week of violence. We arrived at Marikana around the weekend of the 10th and the 11th after the security guards were killed at Lonmin. And you would know on the Monday, the 2 police officers were hacked to death and 3 mine workers were shot at close to Karia mine. And after that incident, the mine workers started to gather at the Koppie from the Monday. And everything was quiet for that week. We would have some violence during the night. We would have one person getting killed during the night, but it seemed to be quiet until the 16th, when the police called a press conference, and the police commissioner, Zukiswa Mbombo, saying, "Today we will move mine workers from the Koppie." And we specifically asked her, what does that mean? What are you planning to do? Because there were quite a large number of mine workers gathering there. And she said, you will see what will happen. Now, we know that because of that plan, we did see the 34 mine workers that died on the afternoon of the 16th of August.
Now, Lizette, the cameraman managed to take dramatic pictures of the actual shooting. I know we've got some footage on that. If we can just have a look at that. And can you just go through those pictures with us? Tell us what was happening exactly, step by step.
Well, like I said, we were told beforehand that the police would have some sort of a plan to disperse these mine workers. And you will remember that the AMCU President Joseph Mthunjwa went to the Koppie. And just after he left, we were then told by police that they are now moving into the final phases of their plan. Seconds after that, the police deployed barbed wire. But we know that one of the nyalas on the end closest to Nkaneng was a bit slow. It created a gap between the police and the mine workers. When mine workers started to move around that kraal, they came in contact with the tactical response team of the police. Now, on that specific day, we had 2 police lines. We firstly had the public order police armed with their rubber bullet guns. And I know, I can remember how police gave an order to say these public order police guys must get back into their nyalas. They were not well armed and they were in danger. They got back into their nyalas, and the second police line, the tactical response team armed with heavy armed, then started firing at these mine workers.
Zaid, as journalist, was it your first experience covering a story like this? Just take us to the emotion that you felt and what that was like.
Well, I've been a journalist now for 11 years, so I've seen a little bit of protests, mostly service delivery unrests. We've been shot by rubber bullets before, we've been thrown by stones, people jumping on our cars. But the mine workers were a totally different story. Every morning when we arrive at the Koppie, the mine workers would start to walk past us and they will ask you, what are you doing here? You will remember that they had a total ban on women there, and they were not happy that there were female journalists there as well. And they would tell you, this is no place for a woman, go back home. And that was difficult. We had no sources in among these mine workers. They had a ban on any cell phone communication. You were not allowed to carry a cell phone on the Koppie. We know that a mine worker was killed because he was seen calling one who was sitting on the Koppie, and the other thought he was a spy. So it was very difficult for us to understand what they were doing, who they are, why they were sitting there. As soon as we started to approach them, they would start with this rumbling noises, and they would get very upset. And police would then tell us to please move back. And the only time that we engaged mine workers was on the 16th around lunchtime, when Joseph Mthunjwa approached us and said the mine workers want to speak to you. They want to tell the world why they are here, and they promise they will not hurt you. And even then, we, as female journalists, were not allowed close to the mine workers. At about 500 meters from the group, we were told to stay behind because of customs, and we were told to sit down while our male colleagues then approached mine workers, and the mine workers told them that they want Lonmin to come and speak to them. They want the employer to explain to them what is going on so that they can resolve the issue. And that was the only time that we actually spoke to them face to face.
Alizé, thank you so much for joining us this morning, telling us about that fateful day in Marikana. She was one of our reporters on scene. Now, Marikana widows, family members and sympathizers will hand over a petition of over 3,000 names to the SABC's offices here in Auckland Park and to ETV's offices in Hyde Park today. The Marikana widows have joined a campaign to demand that stories of their husbands be told by screening the Marikana massacre documentary, Miners Shot Down. The award-winning documentary by Rohat Desai is dubbed as a film every South African has to see. It has been screened on DSTV and Al Jazeera. Kuketsu Muti, the campaigner organizer, joins us today in studio. Kuketsu, welcome to Newsroom.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start off. I just want to know, take us back, the background of this campaign, what the aim is.
So at this point in time, Miners Shot Down has been described as one of the documentaries that comprehensively describes what led up to the Marikana events. And unfortunately, our free-to-air channels and public broadcaster have not thought it necessary that South Africans should see this. Ntsingeho, one of the widows of the Marikana massacre, who's married to Andres Ntsingeho, says their husbands did not die of diseases, their husbands were killed, and these stories must be told.
How is the screening of this documentary going to bring healing?
As a nation, we're at a very critical time. Marikana is our first post-apartheid massacre, and I say post-apartheid very, very cautiously, let it be noted. But we're also celebrating our 20th year of democracy. It is very necessary for us at this point in time to decide what's the agenda for the next 20 years, how do we set it, and Marikana provides us with this opportunity because it's a blatant description of the violence Black lives are meted with every day in South Africa.
Now, can you just clarify why you're taking issue with the two broadcasters in South Africa?
Because as our free-to-air channel and our public broadcaster, they have a duty to let South Africans know. And they have a duty to broadcast in the public interest. This campaign proves that actually there is public interest. And if you read some of the comments of the people who've joined the campaign, people are making references to, we are TV license-paying citizens, we want to see this. They are referring to, it's being shown on Al Jazeera and all these channels we do not have access to. We want to know the stories as well.
Can you tell us a bit more about the documentary?
So the documentary does not focus only on the massacre and the deaths before the massacre and the deaths after the massacre, but it shows the lead up to it. It shows the collusion between state and big business. What's so important about this is that often we see the state on its own as the big threat to democracy. But actually, big business is just as involved, if not more so. And these are the kind of things we need to start having open discussions about. Living wage, what does a living wage mean?
Now, has the petition also taken into account other people who suffered loss that day, not just the miners?
Yes. And this is why this is so important, because it tells us about the situation that led to that, not just the massacre, but the deaths before. And that's why it's important for us as a nation to know about this, decide what do we want to do with this, and how can we ensure that it never happens again.
Now, the Farnham Commission was established to find out exactly what happened. Do you have confidence in the Commission?
Let us just put it this way, that there are people who are dead. Nobody has been prosecuted. What is also very disappointing is we heard from Mr. X, who made serious allegations against the miners, painting the picture of these savages. We heard from Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa, but those most affected, when the family members made their presentations at the Commission, this was not live-streamed.
Now, on the second anniversary of the Marikana killing, how will the widows be remembering their husbands?
There's a variety of activities that are taking place, but today in specific, we will be at SABC and ETV handing over this petition and letting them know that actually it's not just the families who want to hear these stories. There are very ordinary citizens who are very engaged and would like to know, would like to participate, and would like to hear from those who've been so badly affected by this.
Well, Kuketsu, thank you so much for joining us this morning and highlighting this issue once again.
Thank you so much.
Let's now just take a look at what's been happening on social media. A year ago, people were commemorating the death of #Lonmin miners in Marikana. Today, people are so quiet because they made it in Parliament. So everyone is feeling sorry for the miners' widows, who is consoling the widows of the policemen that were killed. #Marikana is a different take. #Lonmin just watched documentary on massacre. Why no police or mine executives have been charged is unbelievable. Miners were targeted and murdered. And there you have some pictures coming in this a day before we remember the second anniversary of the Marikana massacre, happening tomorrow with rallies that will be held in the northwest tomorrow. Then on that note, let's just take a look at the front pages from the Globe this morning, what they've been saying around the world. In Australia, the Sydney Morning Herald is reporting on the human tragedy unfolding in South Sudan as the world's focus is on the upheaval in Gaza, Iraq and the Ukraine. Then in Canada, papers have been looking at the story of Iraq's Yazidis who's crossing borders as they flee from Islamic State militants. And the Wall Street Journal has a picture of Pope Francis on their front page, showing him with bishops of South Korea during the start of his five-day visit in the country. Well, it's time now to take a break. After the break, we take a look at residential online surveys. This is Newsroom on SABC News.
M4 Coupe. One with the machine. M4 Coupe. One with the machine.
Well, hello and welcome back. You're with Newsroom on SABC News. Now, the Cape Town Central City Improvement District has launched another residential survey online and is calling on all residents of the Cape Town Central City to complete the new survey before the end of August. The same survey conducted last year revealed that 89% of residents are happy to be living in Cape Town CBD, while over 40% are planning to continue living there for longer than 4 years. Now, to tell us more about the importance and goals behind surveys like this, we are joined from our Cape Town studio by Andrew Fleming, the CCID survey compiler and senior researcher at the Cape Town Partnership. Hello, Andrew, and welcome to Newsroom.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Andrew, let's just start off. What is the importance and aim behind conducting surveys like this?
The importance is, first and foremost, to find out more information about who's living in the CBD. And this speaks to, different localities around Cape Town, but what we're really interested in getting is getting to know the residents who live in the spaces in between businesses and alongside businesses in the CBD. Residents are just as important of a part of the city as businesses and employees are as well. So by finding out more information about them, we can really get a better feel as to what they're looking for in the city, what they think is working, and what they think needs to be improved.
What are some of the interesting statistics shown in last year's survey, and what are we expecting from this year?
Last year's survey was really great. It was our first survey that we did, so it was a bit of a, we called it a dipstick survey in the office. So we had about 220 people take part in it, and we really picked up some interesting trends. And first and foremost, the main reason why people are really enjoying living in the CBD of Cape Town is that it's close to where they work. People, and that really shows us that people are adopting this live, work, and play in one specific area lifestyle. People are really enjoying the fact that they can walk to their offices instead of sit on the highway for 45 minutes each day. People are really liking the fact that they can easily get to other areas of the central city. So, for instance, in Cape Town, if you live in the CBD, you can easily get to Greenpoint, you can easily get to Cliff Street without having to really get in a car and drive. So for both work and after hours fun, it's a really great way to have a different kind of urban lifestyle in the city.
Now, Andrew, to your knowledge, are surveys like this being done anywhere else in the country?
I haven't seen any, but that doesn't mean that they're not being done. And I think that's the really exciting trend that we're seeing, and this is happening in cities around the world, is that data is moving much to a local level. People are really starting to do great initiatives that look at how to capture data, not from a broad perspective, a nationwide view, but actually at a very small scale. And the power behind that can really make small changes, but that have big impacts for people. So, this is our opportunity to actually start doing that, and our way of getting to know the people in our own backyard, to say, okay, who are you, what do you want, and how can we work together to make the CBD a better place to live?
And on the level of business, how will this benefit to business and overseas investors?
Well, the main goal of this actually was to get to know the residents themselves, but businesses also have a lot to gain from it. Getting to know who the client is, so to speak, in the CBD, who is living here and who can take part in local businesses. So for retailers, this is a great opportunity to know who to sell to, who's walking by your shop every day, and how to make sure that you're catering towards what they need in terms of products or things to sell. For businesses, this is also a really important wake-up call to say it's not really just about having a nice office, but it's about having an office that lets employees take advantage of the live, work, play dream, so to speak. More and more talent is looking for opportunities to live closer to their offices. So how can employees take advantage of this, and not just to have offices in a good location, but do things that really let employees take advantage of the city as well? We're getting more and more new companies that are coming into Cape Town CBD that are saying, this is great to be here, but we really want our employees to explore the city as well. We've done walking tours with companies. We've, started branching out to make sure that employees can take part in a lot of citizen-led initiatives like First Thursdays. And that really is a part of businesses saying, hey, employee happiness is really important for us. We want to attract the top talent, and part of that is actually making sure that the top talent is happy, not just in the office, but outside the office as well.
Well, Andrew, you've got 30 seconds. Just lastly, tell us, if you're a resident and you want to complete this survey, where can you get hold of it?
Absolutely. So we're running it online again this year. We've got it on our website. It's www.capetowncid.co.za. And you can find it there. And by all means, please take part if you live in Cape Town CBD. You stand the chance to win 3 pretty great prizes.
Well, Andrew, thank you so much for joining us, talking online surveys, residential online surveys, the potential they hold, and the pros and the cons of all of that. Let's just now take a look at what you've been saying on social media this morning. Remember, you can send us your tweets and your comments. So we love it in the morning. We love to put it on our show. And take a look at it. I hope I can leave an impact on the people like Robin Williams had done in the world. Hashtag follow in his footsteps, of course. Robin Williams' wife released a statement earlier today saying that he was in the early stages of Parkinson's disease. Poor hashtag Robin Williams is said to have been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease before he committed suicide. That is the latest news from Hollywood. Please support Parkinson's Worm to help find them a cure for Parkinson's. Hashtag rest in peace Robin Williams, and hashtag my dad. There you have a beautiful picture of Robin Williams, the legendary actor we lost earlier this week. He committed suicide on Monday. Now, on that note, let's just take a look at what's been happening on our Newsroom Facebook page. I know we've been covering the Robin Williams story. You can also see some interesting video clips that we've posted up there. Today, you'll see that the Kenyan medical professionals have warned that the country is ill-prepared for an Ebola outbreak. You will also see that the Obama administration has placed U.S. arms shipment to Israel under greater scrutiny during the Gaza crisis. And read more on what is expected to happen today when alleged murder mastermind Shreen Devani appears in the Western Cape High Court. You can find all of these stories and more on our Newsroom Facebook page. It's facebook.com/SABC Newsroom. Well, time now to take a break. After the break, we check in with the Nedbank Kiona team search and our weekly environmental update with weather guru Paul Munare. This is Newsroom on SABC News.
BMW M4 Coupe. One with the machine.
Zoom into Africa. This is Burundi. The president is Mr. Pierre Nkurunziza. Burundi got independent from Belgium on 1st July in 1962. The population is more than 8 million people. One of Burundi's major languages spoken is French. Monetary unit is Burundi franc.
BMW M4 Coupe. One with the machine.
Welcome back. You're watching Newsroom. Let's take a look at the stories making headlines today. The saga over the so-called spy tapes will continue in the Supreme Court of Appeal in Bloemfontein today. The court will hear an appeal by President Jacob Zuma against a High Court decision ordering the NPA to hand over a copy of the tapes to the Democratic Alliance. Meanwhile, the Democratic Alliance has accused President Jacob Zuma of attempting to avoid accountability in his response to the 246 million rand security upgrade at his private home in Nkandla. Yesterday, Zuma formally responded to Parliament on the security upgrades and requested ministers in the security cluster and the Department of Public Works to report to Parliament on their clearly defined roles and responsibilities regarding the upgrades. Honeymoon murder-accused Shreen Devani is back in court this morning, where a final decision is expected on his mental health. The British businessman is accused of hiring 3 men to kill his wife Annie during their honeymoon in Cape Town in 2010. Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi has confirmed that a pregnant woman who arrived in the country from Guinea last month does not have Ebola. He was speaking after the DS Jack Bloom had told the media of a suspected Ebola case at the Rahima Musa Mother and Child Hospital in Gauteng. Remember, these stories are available on our Facebook page. You can also follow us on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Catherine, back to you.
Well, thank you, Anine. Yes, and the 2014-15 South African football season will soon get underway, and local football will once again be the centre of attraction. However, the ball never stopped rolling for the Nedbank Kiona Team Stars. The blended team of young and middle-aged men from all walks of life have been hard at work in preparation for their match against the 2014 Nedbank Cup champions, the Orlando Pirates. Nedbank once again this year called on amateur soccer players to try out for the Nedbank Kiona team to prove that with the right support, anyone can be extraordinary. Now, joining us today from Nedbank, Portfolio Manager for Group Sponsorship, Toby Badenort, and Platinum Stars player Cyril Chibwe from last season's Kiona team search. Guys, welcome to Newsroom.
Thanks, Katrine. It's great to be here.
Toby, I want to start off with you. Just recap the whole campaign for us, the whole idea behind the Kiona team search.
So the Nedbank Kiona Team Search campaign was built on the back of Nedbank's sponsorship of the Nedbank Cup, which by nature involves amateur and professional teams. So hence the campaign was aimed at amateur soccer players all around the country, soccer players who've never had an opportunity to showcase their skills. So hence Nedbank launched or created a platform for them to do so. And it was aimed at South African amateur soccer players between the ages of 18 to 35. And we've staged various trials all around the country whereby we can scout talent and create a platform for them and hopefully be picked up by professional soccer clubs.
Now, Cyril, you were part of last year's season. How has it changed your life since then?
I can start. It changed my life so much because now I understand more about professionalism more than I understood before. So the Nedbank team helped me very much change my life.
And you're now playing for Platinum Stars, if I'm correct. And just how's that journey been? Being part of a team like that after a search like that?
It's been a long, long journey. A very long journey.
Now, Toby, just how many, it's aimed at amateur soccer players. Mm-hmm. How many showed up this year for the tryouts and what were the tryouts like?
So to date, this year we've received over 43,000 total entries via USSD registrations. Of those, just under 30,000 were unique registrations. So obviously some people were quite eager and entered more than once. But essentially we've staged 6 tryouts all around the country. And we were able to screen between 500 and 600 players per tryout venue. So we're very fortunate to have a number of top-class football coaches, such as the newly appointed Bafana Bafana coach, Shakes Mashaba, as part of the coaching staff, and they've been able to narrow down all those players to a final squad of 48 players, and they've gone through a series of boot camps. And at the moment, we've got 23 players in the squad. And next week, Sunday, on the 24th of August, at 2 o'clock, we'll be announcing the final squad of 18 players live on SABC 1.
Now, yes, it is being broadcast on our sister channel, SABC 1. How has the development of the reality show changed over this year?
We wanted to do something different other than just being a normal highlight show. So we've been capturing all the behind-the-scenes footage and essentially we're trying to get viewers to see what goes through the training and the development of these amateur players becoming professionals. So to let them into their worlds and see how they prepare themselves. And hopefully at the end of this campaign, the professional soccer clubs will be able to pick up players who are ready and set to go.
Now, Cyril, you were there. You were part of this journey. What is your message to those players?
All I can say to them is hard work, determination, and just know what you want in life.
Going forward. Toby, it is being broadcast SABC 1. Is there any other online platform, social media that people can follow to keep up to date with what's happening?
Absolutely. So we've got a website, nedbankcup.co.za, where people can go to for all the latest information, or kionateam.co.za, both on web and mobile platforms. And we've launched various sponsorship activation and leveraging campaigns to tell the stories. So people can also search. We've got a very interesting comic that we've launched, Coach Dingaan, so people can just go and look for that on YouTube. And the campaign itself has been a multiple award-winning campaign, and we've won awards at the Luries Awards in year 1 for the best integrated marketing campaign. And our digital initiatives have enabled us to to win the best use of digital communications in a sport campaign at the Sport Industry Awards earlier this year.
Nedbank was very involved with soccer this year with the Nedbank, I remember the football fan couture and all of that. Cyril, just the year ahead for you, what can we be expecting from you?
All I can say is I've been working very hard and I want to see myself playing in PSL as a regular player.
Then, Turvey, just the last word to you. Nedbank's side, what can we be expecting for the rest of the year?
Well, like I said, so that the whole campaign is themed to create a team of professionals. They will be facing the 2014 Nedbank Cup champions, Orlando Pirates, on the 7th of September. We're in the process of just finalising the details, and we will be announcing all the match information soon. And essentially what we want to do is make entry free to the public. So we'll make tickets available via CompuTicket, where individuals can go and redeem 4 tickets per individual by using their ID.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us on Newsroom today and telling us all about the Nedbank Kiona team search happening. You can catch it on SABC 1. Let's now just take a look at what's been happening on social media this morning. The white people in South Africa are fascinated by Zuma, hashtag spy tapes, hashtag Nkandla. Obviously, the spy tape saga in the Bloemfontein Supreme Court today. Hashtag spy tapes, and there it skipped very fast. If spy tapes exit, Zuma must produce them, clear his name. By denying access to them, he is saying to the nation, take my word for it. Spy tapes, what are you hiding, Mr. Zuma? Hashtag spy tapes. Now, do we have more tweets coming? Yes. So what are you hiding, Mr. Zuma? That was the tweet from Reino. Remember, you can send us your tweets and your comments and opinions to @SABC Newsroom on Twitter. We love putting them up and having the discussion. Now, it's almost that time of year again where seasons are starting to change. And, of course, the weather is also taking a bit of a turn. We are already expecting some thunder showers in KwaZulu-Natal province, I believe. Here to tell us more about it all is our environmental guru, Paul Munare. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thunderstorms, KwaZulu-Natal. Really? Are we already that time of the year again?
Exactly, yeah. That's also what I sort of feared. I thought, wow, is spring already kicking in? And, I just wanted to know what is going on. And then we had a look at some of our satellite footage, and we could actually see some of those expected. And those are possibly because of the cold front system that's been passing by over the last couple of hours, and it missed us, so it went right underneath our continent into the Indian and the Atlantic Ocean. But then it became a bit of what we call a cut-off low, and it brought in an upper trough. Okay, so what I'm telling you now is basically what's happening here.
Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, the stages of what thunderstorms are like. And you can see that what happens is we need those clouds, obviously, to form them. And then warm air will certainly come. And what happens with the warm air is because it's not as dense as cold air, it rises quickly. And so, it gets hot here in South Africa. Even in winter, we get sunny conditions. And because of our altitude as well, the land gets heated quite quickly. Then the warm air starts rising and creates all these big clouds that you see there. And then what must happen, the next thing that must happen is with this updraft happening, we must also get a downdraft because, as soon as the warm air gets into the sky, it cools down again. And once it cools down rapidly, there's still warm air coming up, so it's pushing all the way to the top. But then again, a downdraft takes place because it cools down. Once it cools down, it has to drop. And then there's instability coming in. That's what's causing or creating these big clouds. And within those big clouds as well, you get a lot of the friction that's coming because there's lots of energy in there. And that's when we get the fascinating lightnings that you get with thunderstorms. And then also before the lightning can actually take place, you also, with that instability and all that, lots of sort of a shift and rubbing of each other, is when you will get these electrical sparks in the sky, and that's what sparks lightning. And then also the dissipating stages were actually when the rain comes down, and then the strong winds that we're experiencing. And that's pretty much the dissipating stages when it's the end of a thunderstorm. And that's pretty much how a thunderstorm is developed.
Just tell me, isn't it a bit early in the year to start expecting a thunderstorm?
Yeah, pretty much. It is quite early, actually. Like I said, the reason the thunderstorms came already was because of the cold front systems that happened, and those created an upper trough. Upper trough is pretty much like a low pressure cell just into the higher level, and that's really what I can blame to these thunderstorms. But you know what has been happening? It hasn't really been a cold winter that much, and already we're shifting. Even last season, we saw sort of summer jumping in instantly, you know, almost as if we skipped spring. You know, 3 months of spring was almost skipped as it became very hot very quickly. So now, you know, these are the signs again, you know, global climate change and you know, global warming and all of that, is that seasons are becoming shorter or seasons are becoming extended. And in this case, we just got an early surprise from thunderstorms and a jump into spring.
I actually thought this morning, waking up, I felt like we haven't really experienced that much cold. Are we expecting like maybe another cold front just before the summer kicks in?
That's actually quite possible. I mean, I've seen from satellite images that, you know, there's lots and lots of activity just into the southwestern part of the country, especially into the Atlantic. And those are low pressure cells moving in towards the Western Cape province, and those can actually transform into cold front, and those could bring cold weather the next couple of days. But yeah, it's been quite warm over our winter, and it hasn't really been that cold. We had episodes where it was really, really cold, but because of, you know, cold fronts came in and they didn't last. You know, we had one cold front and then the second one, and all of them just sort of disappeared once again. So we could expect one. That's the thing with the weather and my job. It's so unpredictable.
Unpredictable.
You know? Yeah.
Well, just lastly, a quick update on which areas can be expecting thunderstorms this week.
Okay, I'm going to ask if we can quickly switch on to my weather system. I hope you guys can hear us. And not these clips. If you can go into the normal weather system, and then we can have a look at what's been happening. There you go. This is Durban for the next couple of days. You see, because of the system now, you can see, you know, since Wednesday, it started raining up to 30% chance of showers. And then we're expecting Thursday and Friday, we're expecting also lots of rainfall, but nothing came. And then look at Saturday and Sunday, it's going to be quite clear again. But at the moment, this is what it looks like. It's very cloudy there. In just a short while, we might experience some rainfall, and temperatures are still high for the morning, so which is what keeping the warm air rising still. And you can see low-lying clouds there, and that's what's going to cause the rainfall in just a couple of minutes.
Well, Paul, thank you so much for that update, and we'll check in with you again next week.
For sure.
Well, that was Newsroom this morning. Remember, we're streaming live on YouTube as we speak, with the full show available on our YouTube channel. Then that's where we leave you today. This is Newsroom on SABC News, where we love it in the morning.